welcome back to the channel. Hope everyone is having a fantastic day. So congratulations to all of you on making it this far. By now you've already built a simple app for users to list their favorite cafes. Up to this point, all cafes have been predefined in the source code and stored in an array. If you want to add a cafe, the simplest way is to append the new cafe to the existing cafes array. However, if you do it that way, you can't save the new cafe permanently. Data stored in memory is volatile. Once you quit the app, all the changes are gone. That's why we need to find a way to save the data in a persistent manner. To save the data permanently, we'll need to save in a persistent storage-like file or database. By saving the data to a database, for example, the data will be safe even if the app quits or crashes. Files are another way to save data, but they are more suitable for storing small amounts of data that don't require frequent changes. For instance, files are commonly used for storing application settings, like the info playlist file. The Cafegram app may need to store thousands of cafe records. Users may also add or remove the cafe records quite frequently. In this case, a database is a suitable way to handle a large set of data. Okay, in this lesson, I walk you through the Core Data Framework and show you how to use it to manage data in the database. Okay, we will make a lot of changes to our existing Cafegram project, but after going through this series, your app will allow users to store their favorite cafes persistently. Cool, right? So if you're ready now, let's get started. Okay guys, the first thing that we have to do today is to create here a save button. What I mean is when a user will have filled all these fields, we have to let him save this cafe. Okay, so here you're going back to main.storyboard. Okay, and here in the new cafe controller we're going to search for a bar button. Okay, and drag and drop it just here in the navigation bar on the top right side. Okay, cool. In the attributes inspector, you are going to delete its title and press enter. Okay, and the image will be saved like this and press enter. Okay, normally I have provided this icon in the previous lesson. Okay, and also you can change the tint color to black like this. Cool. Now we are going to write an action, an IB action, and then we will link this action to this button. Okay, so maybe you can write it down here like this, IB action. Okay, like this, func save button tapped like this, and we need one parameter, which is the sender. Okay, so you write sender and its type is any object. Okay, for the moment we are just going to display a pop-up, an alert which warns the user that he can't save the cafe if all the fields are not filled. Okay, cool. So if, for instance, name text field dot text like this is equal to blank, means nothing. Okay, or the OR operator in Swift is two pipes. Okay, so you press Option Shift and L on your keyboard and you will get it. Okay, like this, and it means OR. Okay, or type text field dot text is equal to blank, or address okay, like this, text field dot text is equal to blank, or phone text field dot text is equal to blank, okay, sorry, like this. And finally, our description text view dot text is equal to blank. Then we're going to create an alert controller like this with a UI alert controller object. Okay, open parentheses, and you're going to select this one, maybe right here, oops. Okay, then you can write we can't proceed because one of the fields is blank. Okay, please note that all fields are required. Okay, like this. Cool. And finally the style will be alert. Okay, and then we are going to create an action, let alert action to be type of UI alert action. Okay, open parentheses, and here it's gonna be a button, okay, button like this. Okay, nil. Okay, and finally we are going to add this action to our alert controller. So you select the alert controller dot add action, and here you just write alert action. Okay, and finally don't forget to present this controller. Okay, I think by now you should be familiar with uh, this object of alert controller, okay, which is very easy to use. And finally return, okay, like this. Cool. And then once it's done, we can dismiss this pop-up, this alert. Okay, cool. Okay, oh sorry, I forgot one equal, and now it's cool. I'm going to show you something. Here I notice that I just write 1D in the address text field name here, and actually in English it takes 2D, double D. What you can do is to click this one, okay, choose rename, okay, and then you will see all the places where it is used, okay, and then you just have to rewrite it and press enter, and now everywhere you can see we have our double D. Okay, now what we can do is to connect this this action to our save button. Okay, so go back to main.storyboard, and here select the button, press Ctrl, and drive it to new cafe like this. Okay, then release, and here you are going to select save button tapped with sender. Okay, and now it's connected. Okay, we can hit the run button and see in the simulator if it works perfectly. Okay, so the first thing that you can notice is that we have our save button, so it's a good thing. Now I'm going to click on this button without filling all these fields, and as you can see we have our alert which says oops, we can proceed because blah 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 blah. Okay, and here you can press OK to quit this alert. So this is the first thing that I wanted to show you today, and now we are going to talk about the code data. Okay, so as I said in the introduction, we use code data framework to save data to a database. Okay, so you have two ways to use CoData framework in your project. So the simplest way to use CoData is to enable the CoData option during project creation. Okay, Xcode will generate the required code in AppDelegate and create the data model file for CoData. As you can see here, normally if we had chosen CoData at the beginning of this project, we would have here some other methods. Okay, but it's not the case for us. So you have two ways, as I said, to do that. So either press Command Shift and N, okay, and here you can recreate all our project, but I think it's gonna take too much time to recreate everything, okay? Or the other thing to do, the other way to do that, to convert, is to create a random project, okay? For example, blah blah blah, okay, like this. Here you don't forget to click the use CoData option, okay? I have to inform about that. Iqbal, like this. No, just write whatever you want. I'm just gonna let that, okay? Or maybe I'm going to, okay, and then next. It's not a big deal as it's simply a random project, okay? I'm going to save it on my desktop, okay? And here in the AppDelegate file, we are just going to cut and paste. So here you can take all these lines, okay, from mark CoData stack until here. So I cut these lines, and you go back to our official project and you paste these lines here, okay, like this. Cool. And now our project can use CoData, okay? You just have to change the name of the project here. So our project name is Cafegram2EN. So I'm going to write the same thing, Cafegram2EN, like this. Make sure to write the same thing, okay? Because if it's not the case, it's not gonna work, okay? And then I think we have to import CoData like this, okay? And normally it works, yes, because this object belongs to this framework, okay guys? And then once it's done, we have prepared the code for accessing the CoData stack. Let's move on to the creation of the data model, okay? Every CoData application has a data model that describes the structure of the data to be stored, okay? So in the project navigator, right click the Cafegram2EN folder and select new files. Then scroll down to the CoData section and select data model, okay, here, like this. Then click next, okay. And as said before, also here your file must have the same name than the project, okay? So I'm going to write Cafegram2EN like this, okay, and then save it. Once created, you should find a file named Cafegram2EN XC data model D, okay, in the project navigator. Select it to open the data model editor. From here you can create entities for your data model, okay? As we would like to store the cafe object in the database, we will create a cafe entity that matches the cafe class in our code, okay? So to create an entity, click the add entity button here, okay, at the bottom of the editor pane, and name the entity cafe. Here, double click, and then you write cafe. Cool. In order to save the data from the cafe object to the database, we will add several attributes for the entity that align with the attributes of the object. Okay, simply click the plus button under the attributes section to create a new attribute. Okay, so add 8 attributes for the cafe entity, including name, type, location, phone, summary, image, is visited, and rating. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and if you don't know what are these attributes, they are here. Okay, all these attributes, so you have to rewrite the same things, name and type. Okay, cool. So go back here, and the first one will be name. Okay, press enter. To be type of string, then type also string, then location. Okay, string, also string 2. Okay, maybe is visited, which is a boolean. Okay, then phone, which is a string. For the description property, we can't use it here because we'll encounter an error saying that the name description is reserved. This is why we couldn't use it and had to replace it with summary. Okay, so for instance here, if I write description and then press enter, you see we have an error. Okay, so at this place we're going to write summary. Okay, cool, and it is a string. Okay, and finally I think we have a rating property, which is a string, and the last one image. Okay, but here the type of our image will be binary data. Okay, so presently the cafe images are bundled in the app and managed by the asset catalog. This is why we can load an image by passing UI image with the image name. When a user creates a new cafe, the image is loaded from an external source, whether it's from the built-in photo library or taken from a camera. In this case, we can't just store the file name. Instead, we save the actual data of the image into the database. Okay, and binary data is used for this purpose. Okay, so if you select a particular attribute, for instance this one, you can further configure its properties in the data model inspector. Okay, I think here, yes, okay, here. For example, the name attribute here is a required attribute. Okay, so we can uncheck the optional checkbox to make it mandatory. Okay, and for our CafeGram project, we can set also type and location as required here. Location and type. Okay guys, cool. So to use CoData, the very first step is to create the data model, which we've already done. The next step is to create the managed objects. Model objects that tie in the CoData framework are known as managed objects, which are at the heart of any CoData application. For the CafeGram project, we can manually convert the Cafe class to a managed object class, okay, from Xcode 8 and onwards. However, we can let the development tool do the work for us. By referencing the entity model, Xcode can automatically generate the managed object class for us. Okay, so now select the cafe entity and go to the data model inspector. Okay, you should see the class section here. Set the class name to cafe mo for managed objects. okay, and then press enter. That's it. Xcode will generate the class for you when you build the project. You can simply run the app or press Command B to build the project. Okay, and as you can see here, when I press Command B, it's written build Cafegram succeeded. Okay guys, cool. So you won't find the generated class in the project navigator. It's stored somewhere else in the project folder, but you're now ready to use in our code. Okay, since we are going to save the cafe object into the database, we now have to replace the original cafe class with the new cafe mo class. Okay, so let's start with cafe table view controller.swift file. We no longer need to initialize the cafes array with default values, as we will pull the data from the database. Okay, so here you can simply delete all these values, okay, like this, and here it has to be a type of CafeMO. Cool. Once we make the change, you will see quite a number of errors in Xcode. Okay, first, in cafe table view controller.swift, we no longer use a file name to load an image. Okay, here for instance, the image is now stored as a data object. To load the image, instead of passing the image through the named parameter, initialize the UI image object using the data parameter. Okay, so replace the line of code with the following. Here we're going to write if let cafe image is equal to cafe index_path.row, index_path.row, okay, dot image, then cell dot thumbnail image view dot image is equal to UI image, but this time we use this parameter. Okay, and then you write simply cafe image as data. Okay, cool. The same applies to image to share in trailing swipe actions configuration for row add method here. Okay, so replace that line of code with the following. Here you write if let cafe image is equal to self dot cafe index path dot row, like this, dot image, then let image to share okay, like this, cafe image data. Okay, and then I think we can use that like this. Okay, let me check. Normally that is what we have to write. Okay, we first verify if the image property has a value and then load the image using UI image data. Okay, also the properties of CafeMO are now generated as an optional, so you will have to replace the default text here variable with this line of code in order to unwrap the optional. So to unwrap an optional, you just have to put that. Okay, let's move on to cafe detail view controller. Here first we have to change the type of the cafe variable from cafe to CafeMO by initializing a CafeMO object. Okay, so here I'm simply going to say Cafe MO like this. Okay, cool. Again, you will see some errors after changing the code in the view did load method. Initialize the cafe image using data instead of name. Okay, so I'm going to write again if let cafe image is equal to cafe dot image, then I'm going to, I can delete these lines, this line, header view dot header image view dot image like this, and use this one, okay, as data. Also, we will need to unwrap the cafe location when calling the configure method in self-forward. Okay, here, so we can write into the, we can write that, okay, if let cafe location to be equal of cafe dot location, then cell dot configure cafe location. Okay, cool. Okay, for the map view controller class, we will apply the similar change. Okay, modify the type of the cafe variable to cafe mo. Okay, like this. Then replace the view did load method like this. Here you can write that, okay, and I think we are done. As the location property of the cafe object is an optional, we have to perform an additional check. Instead of using if let to verify if location has a value, here I use a special operator, double question mark. What this does is that it checks if the location property has a value. If not, it will use the default value we set after the double question marks. Okay, here you have to change it to that, sorry. Okay, and now it's good. Cool. And then lastly, change the type of the cafe variable in the review view controller here, like this. Okay, in the view did load method, modify the lines of code that loads the image like this. So here, if let cafe image is equal to cafe dot image, then background image view dot image is equal to UI image, and this one, okay, cafe image as data. Okay, as there is no cafe data, our app should now display a blank table when launched. Okay, so hit the run button and see what you get. Yes, a blank table. Okay, so before we continue to discuss how to work with code data, let me sidetrack a bit to talk about empty table views. Now that you should see a blank table when running the app, it would be great if it can show users some instructions. Okay, the general idea of an empty view is to provide users with more information so that they know where to begin. It's not very difficult to implement an empty view. UI table view has a background view property that allows developers to assign a view to it. We will make use of the property to display our empty view. Of course, we need to perform some checking and display the empty view only if there is no cafe data. Okay, I have already designed two images for the empty view, one English version and one French version. You can download it from the link below the video, okay, in the description. Unzip the file and add the image to the asset catalog. Okay, so here, so I'm going to put the English version like this, okay, and here don't forget, as always, as usual, to tick this option, okay, preserve vector data. Cool. Now open main.storyboard. Interface Builder has a feature that allows you to embed an extra view in the existing view controller. First, select the CafeGram controller here, okay. To reveal the scene dock, drag a view object from the object library to the dock and put it right next to the exit icon. So here, select a view object and put it right here, okay, like this, then release. Cool. And here you have your optional view, okay. Once you added the view, you will see a view right above the CafeGram controller. You can now design the view just like any other views, okay. So select the view and change its size in the size inspector here. Set its width to 375 and height to 500, okay, like this. Press enter. Cool. Next, drag an image view to this view, okay. So write image and drag it like this, okay. Cool. In the attributes inspector, okay, set the image option to en like this, okay. Press enter. Cool. Then go to the size inspector to change the size of the image view. Set the width to 320 like this, press enter, and height to 356, press enter. As usual, we need to define some layout constraints. Select this image view here and then click the add new constraints button here. Of the auto layout bar, set the value of the top, left and right sides to 100, 28 and 28 respectively, like this. Okay, also enable the aspect ratio option, okay, and make sure that constraint to margins is unchecked, okay, and then add 4 constraints like this. Cool. So this view is an extra view to the CafeGram controller. In order to access it from code, we have to define an outlet to connect with it, okay. So go to Cafe Table View Controller.swift and declare an outlet called empty cafe view in the class, okay, maybe here, at ib outlet var empty cafe view to be type of UI view, okay, and then go back to main.storyboard and right click here and connect empty cafe view with the extra view, okay. So you select this outlet and make sure to connect with this view and not this image view, okay. So you have to connect this outlet with the whole view, okay guys, like this. Cool. So you've already prepared the design of the empty view. It's time to write some code to display it, okay. In the view didLoad method of the Cafe Table View controller class, insert the following code. So maybe, I don't know, here we can write prepare the empty view, prepare the empty view. We are going to say table view dot background view is equal to empty cafe view, right? Then table view dot background view dot is hidden to true. Okay, we assign the empty view to the background view of the table and make it invisible. Okay, next update the number of sections method. So number of sections and not number of rows in section, guys. Okay, this one, the first one, number of sections. Okay, and here we are going to write if cafes dot count is superior to 0, then table view dot background view dot is hidden is equal to true, and table view dot separator style is equal to single line. Okay, otherwise table view dot background view dot is hidden is equal to false, and table view dot separator style is equal to none. Okay, so the number of sections method is called when the table is configured. We update the method to verify the number of cafe records. If there is no record, we set the is hidden property to false to show the empty view. At the same time, we set the separate style to none to hide all the separators. Okay, now run the project again and see what we get. Okay, cool. And here, as you can see, it's written nothing yet. Tap plus, which means here, to add some cafes. Cool. Okay, and now back to CoData. Earlier we converted our CafeGram project to use managed objects. Okay, the next question is how can we use the objects to save data into the database. Okay, so let's update the new cafe controller class to save a new cafe to the database. Here, first add the following import statement at the very beginning of new cafe controller.swift so that the class can utilize the CoData framework. Here, import CoData. Okay, then declare a cafe variable in the new cafe controller class like this, var cafe to be type of cafe mo. Okay, cool. In the save button tapped method, insert the following code before calling the dismiss method. So here, I think here we can write, okay, if let app delegate, okay, equals to UI application dot shared dot delegate as app delegate, then cafe is equal to cafe mo like this. Okay, app delegate dot persistent container dot view context. Okay, and here we can write cafe dot name is equal to name text field dot text. Okay, cafe dot type is type text field dot text, then cafe location is equal to address text field dot text. Okay, then cafe dot phone is equal to phone text field dot text. Cafe dot summary is equal to description text view dot text. And finally, cafe dot is visited is equal to false at the beginning, at the very beginning. Okay, and then if let cafe image is equal to image view dot image, then cafe dot image is equal to cafe image dot png data. Okay, and here maybe I can write also for Xcode 9 users, this line is equal to UI image PNG representation of cafe, like this. Okay guys, cool. And finally we can write print in the console saving data to context, like this, and then don't forget to write that, which is the most important part, app delegate dot save context, obviously. Okay, cool. So there are a few lines of code that are new to you. First, it's the following line of code here. Okay, the persistent container variable is declared in app delegate dot switch. To access the variable, we have to first get a reference to app delegate here. You can see it here. Yes. So we need to access that. Okay, that's why I wrote that. Okay, in iOS SDK you can use UI application.share.delegate as app delegate to get the app delegate object. Next, it's related to the image property here. Okay, recall that the image type of the cafe entity is set to binary data. In this case, the image property of the generated cafe MO has a type of data. Therefore, when we set the value of the image property, we have to retrieve the data of the selected image and convert it to a data object. The UIKit framework provides a set of built-in functions for graphics operations. Okay, so the UI image PNG representation function allows us to get the data of a specified image in PNG format. Okay, we then create the data object using the image data. This is the piece of code you need to add a new cafe to the database. If you run the app now and save a new cafe, the app should be able to save the record into the database without any errors. You should see the message saving data to context in the console. However, the app is not ready to display the cafe just added. That's what we are going to do next. Okay, so here we can hit again the run button and see if it works. Okay, this one for instance, and write Starbucks here. Bullshit, and then if I press this button, okay, here you can see in the console saving data to context. Okay, which means that our cafe has been saved into the database, but we can't see it right now. Okay, so to fetch data using CoData, the simplest way is to create a fetch request and then use the fetch method provided by the view context. Okay, the generated cafe.mo class has a built-in fetch request method. When called, it returns you an NSFetchRequest object that specifies the search criteria and which entity to search. Okay, with the fetch request, we can then call the fetch method of viewContext to retrieve data from a persistent store. Okay, so here I'm going to introduce you another API called NSFetchResultsController. NSFetchResultsController is specially designed for managing the results returned from a CoData fetch request and providing data for a table view. Okay, it monitors changes to objects in the managed object context and reports changes in the result set to its delegate. So in Cafe Table View Controller .swift, first import the CoData framework here, like this. Okay, then adopt the NSFetchResultsController delegate protocol. So here NSFetch results controller delegate, this one. Okay, the NSFetched results controller delegate protocol provides methods to notify its delegate whenever there is any change in the controller's fetch results. Later we'll implement the methods. For now, declare an instance variable for the fetched results controller. Okay, so here maybe write var fetch, like this, result controller, okay, to be type of NSFetched results controller, but without delegate. Okay, and then you use these symbols and you write cafe mo into it. Okay, like this. Cool. And add the following code in the view didload method. Here, perhaps, fetch data from data store. Okay, let fetch request, okay, to be type of NSFetch request, like this. Okay, let me write, then I will explain you. Okay, like this. Okay, true. Okay, then fetch request. Okay, so you have, I think you have to learn this line of code by heart, because it's very useful and you will use this line a lot of time. Okay, guys? Context dot persistent container dot view context. Okay, this one. okay, and then write do try, okay, fetch result controller dot perform, okay, if let fetched objects is equal to fetch cafes is equal to fetch object, okay. Print error. Okay, so first of all, you have to know that Swift comes with an exception-like model using try, throw, catch keywords. Okay, you use do catch statement to catch errors and handle them accordingly. Okay, as you may notice, we put a try keyword here in front of the method call. When we invoke a throwing method, you will need to put a try keyword in front of it. Okay, so we first get the NSFetch request object from CafeMO here and specify the sort order using an NSSort descriptor object. NSSort descriptor lets you describe how the fetched objects are sorted. Here we specify that the CafeMO objects should be sorted in ascending order using the name key. Okay. After creating the fetch request, we initialize fetch result controller and specify its delegate for monitoring data changes. Lastly, we call the perform fetch method to execute the fetch request. When complete, we get the CafeMO objects by accessing the fetch objects property. Okay, here. If you compile and run the app now, it should display the cafes that we previously added. Okay. However, if we try to add another new cafe, the table doesn't refresh with the new record. Okay. So this is the cafe that I just added few minutes ago. Okay. Okay. Rio Cafe, coffee bar. Okay. Blah 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 blah. Okay, and then save it. Okay, as you can see, the table doesn't refresh with the new record. Okay, so you have to know that when there is any content change, few methods of the NSFetched results controller delegate protocol are called. Okay, the first one is controller will change content, then controller did change, and finally controller did change content. Okay, so here is the implementation. Insert the following lines of code in the cafe table view controller class. Okay, so here maybe we can write, I don't know, mark fetch request methods like this, and first of all I'm going to call the controller will change content. Okay, and you just simply write table view dot begin updates. Okay, then the other method is simply controller, this one, which ends with new index path. Okay, like this, and you write we're going to use a switch statement. Okay, and change each case for the type. Okay, according to the type. So case insert, it's insert, then it means if let new index path is equal to new index path, this one. Okay, here. Okay, then table view dot insert rows. I think it's this one. Yes, here it expects an array, so press enter, and here we're simply going to add new, okay, to talk about this one. And then here fade, okay. Otherwise, the other case is if it's delete, then if let index path is equal to index paths, then table view dot insert rows. Here we're going to write this one, okay, and here choose fade, okay. Then another case, the last one, case it's updated, okay. So table if let index path is equal to index path, then table view dot reload rows, okay. Here still index path, and here fade, okay, like this. And finally we have a default case, so here table view dot reload data, like this. And then we can write if let fetched up objects is equal to controller dot fetched objects, then cafes is equal to fetched objects as an array of cafe, okay, cool. And finally the last method is controller did change content, okay, and here you just simply write and updates, okay. So the first method here is called when NSFetched results controller is about to start processing the content change. We tell the table view, hey, we're going to update the table, get ready for it. This is done by calling table view begin updates, okay. When there is any content change in the managed object context, the second method is automatically called here. Here we determine the type of operation and proceed with the required operation accordingly. For instance, we insert new rows when the type is set to insert, okay. Because the objects in the fetch results controller are changed, we sync them with the cafes array at the end of the method, okay. After NSFetched results controller completes the change, it calls the controller did change content method. Here we need to tell the table view that we've completed the update and it will animate the change accordingly. That's it. So to delete a record from the persistent data store, you just need to call a method named delete with the managed object to delete. Then you call the save context method to apply the changes, okay. So to remove the selected cafe from database, we have to update the delete action variable in the edit actions for row add method like this. In cafe table view controller, okay, where is it? I think it's this one, okay. So this is the delete button, delete action, okay, do you remember? So here you can delete these two lines, okay, and write then if let app delegate is equal to UI application dot share dot delegate as app delegate, then let context to be equal of app delegate dot persistent container dot view context, okay, and then let cafe to delete is equal to self dot fetch results controller dot object add index path. Okay, context to delete. Okay, here you write cafe to delete, and finally app delegate dot save context. Okay, in the above code we get the selected CafeMO object from fetch result controller and then call the delete method to delete the item. Finally, we call the save context method to apply the changes. Okay, but we haven't finished this lesson yet. We have to change here the name of this property because as its name here is summary. Okay, so here you are going to write summary. Okay, copy paste it and copy and paste it here, 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 and also here. Okay, cool. And I'm going to try to run the simulator again and see if it works normally now. Okay, so here, okay, Starbucks like this. Okay, whatever, and then I save it, and if I go there, okay, so here as you can see the description is not well displayed. Okay, so we have changed the name of the property in the model, and we also have to change it in the Cafe Detail View controller. So here in the case, which case it is, I think case 2, here we're going to say summary. Okay, and relaunch one last time this simulator. Okay, and here as you can see it's written correctly, a great cafe to try out. Okay, and finally, what if we need to update the rating of an existing cafe? How can we update the record in the database? Similar to creating a new cafe, we can update a cafe record in the persistent store by updating the corresponding managed object and then call save context to apply the changes. For instance, to save the rating of a cafe, we can update the rate cafe method of the Cafe Detail View controller class like this. So here above scale transform, you are just going to write if let app delegate is equal to UI application dot share dot delegate as app delegate, then app delegate dot save context. Okay, the current version of Cafe Detail View controller doesn't display the cafe's rating when it's first loaded. Insert the following code in the view reload method to fix that. Okay, so here maybe if let rating is equal to cafe dot rating, then header view dot rating image view dot image to UI image rating like this. Okay, cool. You are now ready to test. Choose a cafe and rate it. Now the rating is saved permanently in the database. Okay, then okay, and if I stop the simulator and I relaunch it one last time, as you can see, the rating image is kept. Okay, so it's a very good thing. Congratulate yourself on making an app using CoData. At this point, you should know how to retrieve and manage data in a persistent data store. CoData is a powerful framework for working with persistent data, especially for those who don't have any database knowledge. The NS Persistent Container class introduced in iOS 10 encapsulates the whole CoData stack and makes working with CoData a breeze, especially for beginners. In this lesson, I give you a brief overview of CoData. I hope you understand the basics of CoData and how to use it to store persistent data. Okay guys, so that's all for today. I see you in the next lesson. Just take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.